Hi, I'm AJ Cook. I just finished talking to Kara, my new BFF. She just has a way. She has a way with people. We had a great conversation, and you should tune in. Check it out.
Hi, friends. Welcome back to Really Famous. You know AJ Cook, right? She plays JJ on Criminal Minds and now Criminal Minds Evolution. Well, she is fabulous in real life, like a totally real person who you're going to want to get to know better and hang out with, which you're about to do because that's what we do right now. So let's do it. So your son is a little more of a techno
Oh,
genius.
of course. I mean, that's not saying much because I think anyone would be more technologically advanced than I am. But yeah, he's 14, so he grew up with it. And then I have another that's 7, and he's probably way, way, way better than I am too because that's his
Yeah.
language. Unfortunately, he's at school right now. Man,
He was on the show recently, right? And you were directing
yeah,
him?
yeah. They both were. I know it's so weird. But way, way back in the day when I first got pregnant, I went to the show and said, "Hey, I'm pregnant." And we're the type of show that, they didn't want to like hide it or anything. They just wanted to write it into the show. So back then, JJ had no love interest or anything. So I just remember our showrunner, Ed Bonero, at the time, he just looked at me and he goes, "Well, I guess we better get JJ a boyfriend."
That's so
So
great.
yeah. So then when Mackay was born, they asked me if, I wanted to use him because he comes to set with me and, all that sort of thing. So they're like, I might as well put him to work. So I ended up using my actual kids in the show. So it's bizarre, it's weird, but it's been so cool. Like it's such a unique opportunity, the kids have grown up on the show just as I have grown up on the show.
Uh-huh.
So for me, nothing is the truest marker of time than children and seeing how different they look now. And I think that was really cool about doing the revamp of the show
Right.
is it was a shock, I think, for a lot of people to see how big little Henry was. He's like taller than me now, and he's turned into this young man. So it's pretty cool that we
Yeah.
have that all documented now for
It
the rest
is
of our
very
lives.
cool. That is cool. I mean, that's so unique. How many
So
people can
unique.
have that exactly? Like with their family photo albums, they also have these this
Yeah.
series of them over the years.
Yes, I
Yeah,
know.
that's
Unfortunately, they can see what I look like pregnant with them in my tummies too. So the whole thing is documented.
well, what do you mean? What's so unfortunate about that?
Oh, just, you're not always feeling your best when you're schlepping around pregnant. But yeah, I remember when I was going through it, I was very, self-conscious about all of it.
Okay.
But now looking back, I'm so glad that it's all there and documented because I really don't have many photos at all of me pregnant. So now at least I can see it on the TV. It's documented in that
Yeah.
way. I'm
Yeah, I
like, I
guess you gotta
swear, I did carry you in my tummy. I know there's no proof of it, but
That's so funny. For my when I was pregnant the first time and I had my daughter, I remember I took a picture of myself. Seems so weird now, but like every week, or not of myself. There weren't really selfies, I guess, back then, but every week to see like how I
mm,
was growing. And I mean, obviously, I didn't do that for child number 2 or for child number 3. I think fewer and fewer photos, but I love those pregnancy photos. They're just like they grab such a special period of time
yeah.
that you don't feel like goes by like that when you're in it. I mean, it feels like it's forever,
hmm
but then, when you
It's
look
a
back, it's
Yeah,
like
the days are long, the years are short. Yeah.
totally true.
It's funny that you say that because I had zero documentation of my first pregnancy. But for my second, I did the same thing. Because I had nothing from the first one, I took a photo every single week. So from
Oh,
like week, whatever, I found out really early. I think it was like week 6 or something, all the way through to me having the baby. And I love those photos. I love that I have that, it's just the progression of a pregnancy. It's pretty cool to have.
Totally. Yes, yes, yes. So okay, so how is it like to actually tell them what to do in a different environment?
It was really nice because they had to listen to me. Whereas at home, it's like, okay, mom, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was such a cool experience. So I've directed before on the show,
Hmm.
but in the past, they tend to write our characters pretty light in the episode, just so you can focus on directing, just sort of keep the director's cap on. That was when we were on network on CBS. Now
Right.
that we've done this reboot, it's streaming, and we went from doing like 24 to 27 episodes a season to 10. So this time around, it was a little harder to write a character out for one episode because there's only 10. It just leaves a
Yeah.
bigger hole. So that was the big difference for me. Was I had there's a pretty decent JJ storyline in that episode that I'm directing. So the very last day, we had a full day in JJ's house, and it was all the scenes where, of course, I was in every single scene, and it was with Will, her husband, and then my two kids were there, and I just really had this amazing pinch me moment of number one, I can't believe that I get to act with my kids, but I'm here directing them. And this is such a beautiful, unique opportunity that
Hmm.
does not come around much in people's lives. And here I am getting to do this. And it just made me be present and just really enjoy the moment instead of a lot of directing is you're under the gun and it's like you got
Hmm.
to make your day and you're really trying to get good work, but you're constantly like, okay, what's on the clock. But this day in particular, I just really enjoyed and just sat in it, and it was really cool. In the past, my oldest, he plays Henry on the show. He's just had little bits and pieces here and there. But in this episode, there was a lot. There was like he had to actually act and emote, and so I was really nervous about that. And
Right.
being his mom and the director, it was
Right. Like,
a
can he do it
pretty.
even?
It was
Right.
heavy. It was heavy. It was. I felt like a lot of responsibility and pressure to make sure that this turned out okay.
Hmm.
So yeah, we did a lot of work with it, obviously preparing for it, but on the day you just never know what's going to happen. And he did great, and I was just so proud of him. And then my youngest, he's 7. All of this stuff is just so like natural for him. I didn't even have to give him a single note. I mean, granted, he didn't have the same amount of work that Mackay had, but it was just the coolest experience. And who knows if I'll ever get that experience again. So I just really wanted to make sure that I enjoyed it.
That's good. And I mean, it's easier said than done, but that is, I think, being in the moment. And like, I think parenting kind of teaches you that a little bit too, maybe, of like
Hmm.
sometimes it's the little moments too that aren't as monumental. Like, sometimes I'm like, I'll see my two kids just playing together, like having a great time and laughing. And I do now just look at it and say, this is fleeting and it's amazing. I love it. Like, just remember this moment. It feels really good because everything
Hmm.
does kind of change and you never know if you'll be back to the same place ever, really.
Yeah. Yeah. And you really have to learn that in parenting. And it's something that I feel like gets a little easier with time because
Yeah.
you understand how precious time is. For me, at least, the older I get, the more I realize that, oh, all those things, those people that were older than me were telling me my whole life
Yeah.
were true. But unfortunately, youth is wasted on the young, and that's the point, is
Right.
that, you have to go through it to really know it and to learn it. So for me, the older the kids get, it's just like, ugh. I mean, he's going to be going to high school. My youngest, little Henry, little Mackay, is going to high school, and that was very eye opening. for me. There's
Yeah.
no pause button. I know. I look for it every day and I cannot find it. And these
Yeah.
kids, they just keep growing. And
It is so weird how those sayings, like you've already said a few of them that are exactly right, but we would never, they don't connect with us when we're young. Like
no,
when
they
you only
can't.
can't. But that's the beauty of being
Mhm.
like, super in your 20s or whatever. It's like you go about your whatever. You don't really know
Yeah.
what's what. And that's kind of makes it that time. But all of
Mm.
them are so true. I remember so many women specifically when I was pregnant with my third. So I had two little kids with me and a third, a baby bump. And I remember a lot of women came up to me like in Trader Joe's or wherever and they'd like just comment. They wouldn't touch my belly. That wasn't the thing. For some reason, I didn't get that as like a lot of other women did. But they all said the same thing. Oh, if I could do it again, I would have
Mm.
like 10, but
Mm.
it's too late now. And so that was one of those things I think taught me also like, oh, okay, so like this is something to really pay attention to or like be in the moment with. And, sometimes we can learn a lot from people who've been where we were before.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, when you're young, you think you know everything, and these lessons don't apply to you because you're the one person it's gonna be different.
Right.
But that's just how it's supposed to be. So
Right. Okay. So I read somewhere that you live in Hermosa Beach. Is that true?
I do.
Ah, it's my favorite spot in all of the United States. Love it.
Right? It's fantastic. So I'm from Canada originally, and never in a million years did I think that I would be here in California, living on the beach and just loving life. Uh, yeah, it's so great. So when I was in no rush to get to Hollywood, it scared me really. So I really took my time to make that move. But when my career did get to that point where it was just time to make that move, I was just married, and I remember me and my husband decided that we would just get in a rental car and just start driving down the coast. That if we had to make this move, we were going to live somewhere that we wanted to live, and we wanted to live somewhere that felt like a community and felt like we weren't in Hollywood. We wanted to be outside of it all. And I'll never forget, we did exactly that, rented a car and just started driving down the coast. And we drove through Manhattan Beach and Hermosa, and then we hit Redondo, and we saw this man literally just putting out the like for rent sign, and we stopped, and that was the place we ended up getting. It was amazing. It was like right on the beach. It was on like Avenue E and Esplanade.
Oh,
So yeah, so that's where we started. We got a little townhouse there, and then from there we made the jump to Hermosa, and we're in no rush to leave. I've
yeah.
had both of my kids here. Uh, I gotta say, I look at my kids sometimes, and I'm like, you guys have no idea how lucky you are. I'm like, you should go up to Canada where I grew up, do
Right.
some winters up there. But the beach is their backyard, and it's such a cool community. It really is such a small, like tight knit community where you really kind of do know everyone, and people really help each other out. And we love it here. I need to stop talking so highly about it. I don't want people to know about our secret.
Yeah, I know that's totally true. I mean, I've actually mentioned it on the show before. I don't remember who I was talking to. I think, I don't know. There's somebody who lived on the Strand for a while in Manhattan Beach, and then there was, I don't remember who else, but somebody who didn't live in the South Bay. But I remember saying like, I am like obsessed with that area. I'm just going to describe it for everybody. It's perfection. It's just like you said, where
Mm,
you're close to Hollywood because you need to be, but you
yeah.
don't feel anything like you're in Hollywood. Like it does not feel like Los Angeles. To me,
Hmm.
it feels like a total beach town and a
Yeah.
community, like you said. Like you get that vibe that it's just a
Hmm.
friendly, down to earth place where people know each other and they say hi and all the things. And it's gorgeous, but it's not like, it doesn't have that pretentious, gorgeous
No.
thing going on at all, which is also makes her super cool.
Yeah, it's just real grassroots here. I like it. It's just people that live here want to live here and they live here for a reason and their priorities are maybe slightly different. Yeah, I really need to stop talking so highly about it
No,
because
it's all
everyone's
good.
gonna move
It's all
here.
good. I'm the one talking highly about it, and I don't live there, so I'm allowed to. So you weren't, so you were reluctant at first to move. So
Mhm.
what was going on? What were you thinking about the whole situation?
Well, I was just so worried about, like the pretentiousness and, like just Hollywood in general, getting in with the wrong crowd, like the after school special of it all. I I don't know. And I'm not like a super extrovert type of a person. So Hollywood just seemed really scary to
Uh-huh.
me. I love nature. I love to connect with nature. I love to ground myself and keep myself grounded. And I never feel grounded in Hollywood. I mean, it's different now because I've gotten to know it a little bit better.
Hmm.
And, I know a lot of people here now. So it's different. But yeah, I don't know. I grew up very like square, like I grew up in a
Uh-huh.
very religious family and, didn't drink, never did a drug in my life. And, it was kind of afraid. My parents were, I think, a little worried about the industry I chose. Not worried about me because they knew that I had a really good head on my
Right.
shoulders. But, more
Yeah,
about
why
the
would you want your
people that,
child to
yeah,
go to what you've heard all these things about?
yeah, yeah. And I knew I would be fine because I know that I don't fall for stupid stuff like that. And, I'm strong enough as a person in what I believe that, I'm not going to get in those situations. But I don't know. There's like that scariness there of
Hmm.
everyone's so fancy and everyone's so beautiful and everyone's so cool and how am I going to fit in there? And it's a little daunting at
Yeah,
first. Yeah, but
sure.
then you realize you get to know people and everyone's human and everyone has their own insecurities and everyone's going through their own thing. And I think if you can really make people feel like they can let their guard down, that's when the magic really starts to happen. And you just see that we're all the same. We're all the same. We're really not that different.
Yeah,
So
I totally agree with you on that.
that's
Like,
what you do,
that's what
right?
I
That's
do.
what you do.
You hit it on the head. That's
I
exactly
love
what I
that.
do. And that's like, it's all genuine and it's not like tricky. Like I'm trying to get you to say something that you wouldn't normally say. It's really all about
Mm,
like, let's just be real with each other and like, yes, feel comfortable and vulnerable or not vulnerable, but that's
mm,
where real connections happen, I think. And that's where
yeah.
everybody feels better. So, like, I think we all feel better being ourselves. So, if somebody can help somebody else feel like that's good to be yourself and you can be comfortable like that, like, there's really nothing better almost. I love
Hmm.
that.
Yeah, it's very freeing, which is really kind of sad, right? Because if we feel like we can only be ourselves in this own like this certain space and around certain people. Um, yeah, it's
Yeah,
weird.
it is
Hmm.
weird. So, how do your parents feel about it now?
Oh, I mean, my parents were never like, oh, I'm afraid of you at Hollywood. Like they were super cool. I
Hmm.
was really lucky, and they've always been incredibly supportive of this. But yeah, they they're I don't know. My parents are the best. I really
Okay.
they've always just been really supportive. Like I said, I'm from Canada, so we get a lot of visits from them during the winter, and from all of
Oh,
my sister's actually here visiting right now because this is the not so fun time up there. It's just gets so cold this time of year.
I get
So
it. Like, I wonder, is it much cold? So I'm in the suburbs of New York City. So it's been
okay.
super cold here. So like I'm suffering through the weather. Like, but I'm wondering, is it colder where they are?
Mm. Probably. Well, you know what? So we're just outside of Toronto.
Oh, okay.
And
I know the weather there. Yes. It's
yeah,
almost the same.
it is, but there's sometimes like the lake effect. So it's not like they get
Right.
a ton of snow for whatever reason, the lake effect, and
Uh-huh.
I don't know. But yeah, it's just that cold where you like breathe in and you can kind of feel your lungs crystallizing a little bit with ice. It's just, you know what I mean.
I know
It's
what you mean.
ugh, like to the bone cold. I don't
Right.
miss it. I don't miss that cold one second. It's fun to
Right.
visit, but it's nice to know that you can leave.
Right. And then that you're leaving to go to Hermosa is not a bad thing,
Yeah.
but I won't harp on that. So so you grew up pretty religious. It's Mormonism, right? Is
Yeah.
your religion?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So do you feel comfortable talking about it? Is there like a
Well, yeah. I mean, I was raised Mormon, which was a very strange way to grow up uh, in the suburbs of Toronto when there really wasn't another one for miles and miles.
oh,
So
so
it
it's
was,
just your family?
um, yeah, I really didn't have many friends that I think I was the only one at my high school that
Oh,
was
okay.
Mormon. I mean, my siblings, but they weren't like practicing or
Right.
anything. Um, so yeah, it was kind of I want to say like a
Yeah.
little lonely to grow up that way by yourself. Um, so it was interesting. I love a lot of things about the religion, but a lot of other things I'm not so jazzed about. But
Okay.
I don't know. It's tricky talking about it. My parents are still practicing, and they're diehards, and I would never say anything about the religion
Hmm.
to hurt it in any way. I think to each his own, and I think people should be able to believe in whatever it is that they believe in. So it works really well for my parents.
Yeah, yeah, I get it. So you're not really
And
practicing to the extent that they are anymore.
no, no, not like they are. Yeah, but I
Yeah.
love it, and I will never speak badly of it. And people are allowed to have whatever opinions they want about it. Um, I love I love the family aspect of it. I think that's really beautiful. The family units. Yeah, but I
I
don't know. It's
feel
kind of an
like,
awkward thing to
yeah, I get
talk
it.
about, but
I feel like with a lot of things, the nice thing is you really can't. I mean, I don't know that you always can do this, but you can choose to pick and choose the things that you really appreciate about it,
yeah.
and just not do the things that you feel like aren't really in sync with whatever, however you feel or what you believe in. As you go
Hmm.
along. I mean, I don't. Like I think that's with a lot in life. It's like that. Like
Yeah.
you see things and you're like, okay, I'll take this with me, or okay, I'm going to
Hmm.
leave that on
Hmm.
the table or whatever.
Yeah. And that's what's so cool about growing up and gaining wisdom and figuring out what works for you and what doesn't quite make sense to you.
Right.
Um, yeah, and that's what I've had to do, figure out what feels good to me and what doesn't, and be at peace with that.
Totally.
Yeah.
I imagine too, it might be challenging because I think there's probably a lot of misconceptions too, though, right? Like,
Hmm.
not even the things that you've left, but I know like there are like the things that the documentaries or whatever, and that's not even, it's like a sect that's further away from the
Hmm.
Church of Latter-day Saints,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. A lot of the times Mormons are connected to plural marriage and that whole thing, like 50 wives and 200 children, and yeah, that's a different sect of the religion. But yeah, the religion did practice that at one point,
Mm.
for quite some time, but they have since moved beyond that. So I guess
Yes.
there's the people that believe that God doesn't change, which is that is what they teach. So I think that's why there are still a lot of people practicing that way, because that was how the prophet lived back then. So,
Right. It's like, I guess he's like, there are people who always believe in the beginnings or like this,
hmm
how something was founded. It's like same with
hmm
probably the United States or whatever else.
yeah,
Like this is what,
yes,
right?
absolutely. Any constitution,
Yeah.
any foundation or like, the things change and we evolve as people and our lives evolve and the not everything is dire like it used to be back then. So
Hmm.
yeah, but it's tricky. I get it. I get it.
Yeah. I mean, and there are just certain topics that are always going to be tricky, to talk about or that people are going to have opinions about. And
Hmm
it is what it is. That's another one. This is like, it has nothing to do with anything, but that's another one of my favorite sayings. I don't even know what it really means, except it says it perfectly. It is what it is. Like, it
Yeah,
is what it is.
it is. It is. Yeah, I feel like things have become so polarized now, and it's a shame. I feel like we've sort of lost ourselves a little bit in it all. You know, man, we're crushing it. We've talked religion, and it sounds like we're getting into politics now. What else is
Yeah. Let's
next?
leave the politics. Let's like, okay,
Yeah,
if we
no,
did,
no, definitely want to go there.
yeah, we did the religion. So like I think that's great. And I do like to I have to say I do like to talk about real things. Like I like to talk about
Yeah.
things and it's not even so much topics like, oh, let's debate this topic or let's discuss this topic that is, kind of about not really directly about us. It's kind of just part of the world. I'm usually much more interested in what our own experiences are, like what your experiences are. So that would be like religion is probably not a topic that I've even talked about very much on my show.
hmm
It interests me though because how it affects you, like you know what I mean, because it's part of your life. So that's what's most interesting to me. Politics, I mean, it's a part of people's lives too, but I do try to avoid it to a certain degree on the show. And it's not just to please everybody, but to me, it's just not as meaningful as like our own
Yeah.
personal experiences and our human connections and whatnot. But
Yeah.
yeah, we are crushing it.
Yeah, crushing it.
So let's talk about marriage and family. How about that?
Let's do that.
So I
Yeah.
saw a bunch of your Instagram posts, and it looks like you have a great time with your husband doing these like outdoorsy things that you were talking about.
Yeah, we like I said, we're very outdoorsy people. We also have a place out in like Zion area. So it's a real we really do have like the best of both worlds. We have this beach here and then we get to go kick around and have a great time out in Zion, where it's like all that beautiful red rock and the red sand, and it's just it's the best. So we've got like like a lot of land over there. Because beach life here, like you're on top of each other. Like I can,
Right.
hi neighbor. Like we could have a conversation right now. So the reason why we got that place, we just wanted to have some land and uh, to preserve the land too, because everything's getting built up so quickly, especially in that area. We're sort of just hoarding land right now. We love it. We love nature and the wildlife. In my old age here, I'm obsessed with birds. There's so many beautiful birds in that area. Um, it's just I don't know, something happens to my soul when I touch the land there. It's just really really beautiful, and it's just nice to disconnect from devices and phones and television and just go run around and howl at the moon and be wild. That was really important. That I give that to my kids, especially because they are growing up in LA, even though it is Hermosa Beach, they have a very different uh, upbringing from what I did. And I just wanted to make sure that they had the opportunity to connect with themselves and to have some quiet so they can figure out who they are. And I think there's no better place to do that than out in nature. My oldest, him and we've got cousins out there. Him and his cousin Beckham, they'll like pack up backpacks and water and just go take off for the day and, go explore and be boys, and, they'll have a great time. It's so much fun. It gives me such joy that they get to experience that they get to go do that in their lives, because I know how important it was for me. I spent my summers camping all through, growing up. And I love lakes and rivers and the ocean, obviously.
Yeah.
But there's just something really cool about no distractions. Your only distraction is like your own imagination and like what trouble you can get in out in the
Yeah.
middle of nowhere. So yeah, we love it out there. And
Yeah.
especially through COVID and through quarantine and the shutdowns over here, we were, that handful of people that thrived. We loved it out there. We got to be out there during the best time of the year through spring. We got to see the bloom and the super bloom. It was insane. I didn't know some of my cactuses did that. Like they bloom these insane, gorgeous fuchsia pink flowers. And it was I was so grateful to have that time out there with my family, just shut out all the
Hmm.
distractions of the world and just really kind of get to know your family again.
Yeah. So
So
you
that,
totally do that regularly. You practice
yeah,
that
yeah,
appreciation or the gratitude in the moment.
I do.
There's another example.
Yeah, I do. I need to. If I always know when I haven't been doing that, because I start to get anxious and worrying about stuff that we're 0 point to worry about. I can't change it. Like, why am I worrying about something that hasn't happened yet? So, yeah, there's just something about living in the moment, and it just calms your mind
Hmm.
immensely.
Right. It's so good. Especially because it sounds like you're describing like stress, anxiety, or whatever. Because thinking about worrying about things that aren't even happening, haven't happened. It's like that
Yeah.
expression. I've worried about. I'm gonna get it completely wrong, but it's something like I've worried about 10,000 or 10 million things in my life, and about 0.5% of them have actually happened.
Yeah. I'm surprised that it would even be 0.5%,
Right. I
Our
totally made that
minds are
number up, but
funny.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Because that's the thing. It's like, yeah, it's so easy to worry, and some people worry more than others, of course. But it's so easy to worry about things that could happen, and like it's true though that almost none of the time do those things happen, and then when they do happen, you handle them.
Yeah, it wouldn't have changed it. The worrying about it, like,
Right.
yeah, it's funny how we do that to ourselves. How we think that we do these like mental gymnastics in our heads over and over, and that that hamster wheel of replaying a scenario over and over and over. And uh, a lot of the times, I think it happens because that's what all we're focusing on. Like we will it to happen because we spend so much time
Mm.
thinking about it and wondering about it. And I think the universe is like, all right, here you go.
Right, right. Well, that's what they say, right? You do whatever you spend
Hmm.
your time thinking about is what's going to happen. So you can spend your time thinking about things that would be awful and catastrophic, or you can
Hmm.
think about things that are good, that are going to happen. And I do think that to a certain degree definitely is true because you can see anything you have in your head. Like if you start looking for it, even if it's like subconsciously looking for it, you'll find it. So
Hmm.
if it's bad things, you'll find that. Or if it's good things, you'll find that too. So,
Yeah. And it's nice that there's that flip side too, of like,
yes,
good thoughts, good energy, all of that good
right.
stuff. You start to see the beauty in the world a little bit more.
So, what worries you most? What are some of the things that'll come up that you'll start thinking about and stressing about?
Uh, I mean, I worry about my kids, obviously. Um, my husband, his health. Those are the things that kind of keep me a little. And then like the dumb things that not dumb, but just work type stuff, dumb actor things of like, oh, I'm never gonna work again, and I'm never gonna be in another movie again, and just frivolous stuff like that. But the things that really keep me up at night are the you know, family, family and loved ones. That's what keeps me up. But I try not to go there because I don't want those things to happen.
Yeah. But also
Yeah,
those are the things that you really can't control
I
either,
know.
right?
Yeah, yeah. You just
So
gotta
that's the hardest part.
when that happens to me, I used to get like really mad at myself that I would like let myself. I'm like, just stop thinking about it. But now I've sort of been taught to, you know, see it, stand in it, feel it,
Yes.
acknowledge it, and let it go. Like like any thought, right? It's gonna come into your mind, acknowledge it, and let it pass. Don't keep having conversations with it.
That is totally true. And that is,
Mm,
so I should also say that I was a therapist before I did this. So I have a little of that
that
training.
makes sense. That
Yeah.
makes sense. Yeah. You have a great voice too. Your voice is
What?
very soothing and very
Really?
calming. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, you do.
It's so funny when I
Which
remember, no, go ahead.
I was like, which is great that you do podcasts for a living.
Yeah,
That
I
works
mean,
well.
it's funny when I started, I remember somebody saying, like, you have a really squeaky voice. Like, you're really going to have to work on that. So, of course,
Really?
that sticks with
Mm,
you. You remember that. So, that's what, when you say something like that, I'm just like, well, I still see my voice as the way that I heard from that one person that one time 5 years ago. You know what I mean?
that's funny. I don't know. I find your voice very comforting.
Oh, that's great to hear. I appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, anyway, as I was saying about the therapy thing, that, right. So if you keep, like you're saying, like you have a conversation with that thought, then it's called rumination. So you don't get anywhere with that. You just keep going
Hmm.
with it. But by the same
That's the
token,
hamster wheel.
right. By the same token, like you said before, about if you just but if you try to push it out and not acknowledge it at all, then it's just going to keep trying to get back in. Right. So you're
Hmm.
going to keep
Yeah.
bothering you and knocking at that door. So that is exactly the way I think to handle it is like, yeah, okay, you acknowledge it. I'm going to worry. Like I'm going to worry about things like this. It's normal. And it just comes but I'll get through it. So it's okay. I'm just having these thoughts and I acknowledge them as those thoughts and now I move on. So
Hmm.
that's a good strategy.
Yeah. In a perfect world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I know. It's not always easy, but I do think that acknowledging it
Hmm.
is a good tool
Hmm.
rather than the opposite.
Yes.
How worried is your husband about things? Is he a worrier? I have a feeling he's the opposite.
He is. Yeah. He's my husband's like the coolest person ever. I'm like, I don't know how I scored you. But he's taught me so much. Because I was very, you know,
Right.
grew up a
Rigid.
certain way and um I don't want to say closed-minded about some things, but I don't know. With how you are raised, you get a certain way of thinking ingrained in your mind. Like it just that's called how you're raised. So he actually was raised similarly, but he had a much healthier approach to all of it. So yeah, he's been able to walk me through a lot of those times where I am worrying unnecessarily about things, and he's helped me kind of get through some of those tough times. He's that guy that everyone goes to for advice. Yeah, he always has pearls of wisdom to offer everybody. I will say this though, he's really great at giving advice. He's not great at taking it.
Ah,
And
uh-huh.
he would admit that. He would admit that as well. But yeah, he's a good one. He's very outdoorsy as well, and it's been great to uh, experience all of that with him and our kids. It just brings me so much joy seeing my husband and my boys in the wilderness. It's just so cool because there's so much joy coming from them. And it's what they're doing is so simple, and we don't need things for it. It's just being out there in the fresh air and
Hmm.
being with each other. is the best. It's priceless.
Right. So I feel like you are totally not a things oriented person, like a materialistic person. Like, yes, I'm sure you have a great house on the beach, but that's like because of the lifestyle, right? It's not
Mhm.
about acquiring things or whatever. Like that's
Yeah. No,
yeah.
I'm really not. And probably like embarrassingly at times too, you know. Like we grew up blue collar family. My dad worked on the line at General Motors and like
Oh,
stuff wasn't a thing for us. So it is kind of strange when you come from, like humble beginnings and you do find some success in life and just the whole idea that I get paid to do what I love for a living is crazy and I'm so grateful for it. But it's strange because I do live in California now and where that sort of thing is, people like to flaunt their stuff around and it's like keeping up
yeah.
with the Joneses type of a deal, like your cars and your clothing and you know, so yeah, I don't even know what's cool. Like I'm like, um, so I don't. That's been a struggle for me with raising my boys out here is that I just really want to make sure that they have a good foundation of, like what's really important and what's really going to bring joy and happiness to your life. It's not about things, it's about the people you surround yourself with and knowing yourself and being comfortable with who you are. Um, so those are the things that we tend to focus on a little bit more. My husband is definitely more the things guy. Like he's like I said, he's just cool. He's like the cooler. He's way cooler than me, and he's just on top of uh, that sort of stuff way more than I am. He has his own clothing company too, so he
Oh, he
started his own.
does? I didn't
Yeah,
know that. So he's
he
not in
started his
entertainment or anything. He's in
no.
clothing. Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is why we've been married for 21 plus years. He's not in the industry. Um, yeah, so the reason why he created Walter Sky, that's the name of his clothing company, was because he's a big outdoors guy and he wanted clothes that doesn't look like he's wearing his dad's clothes hiking, like he
Yeah.
wanted technical clothing that can go from the office to like will take you anywhere and you don't have to worry about it and you don't have to look like your nerdy dad doing it. So yeah, he created this sort of like staples line and it's doing really well, so I'm super happy for him. But my point being, he's got a great eye for fashion and style
Style.
and just
Uh-huh.
what looks good. So yeah, I lean on him a lot for that.
That's handy. I mean, I would
Yeah.
think I could see where it is interesting because you are in that place where it is maxed out attention to like materialistic whatever or like style,
Mhm.
fashion, all those things, status, whatever. And that's clearly not who you are at all. So I'm sure it is a little bit of a challenge.
Yeah, and you know what makes it easier is living here, living in Hermosa. It's like, people in flip-flops all day. Like you don't wear
Yeah.
makeup. Like it's just it is what it is. So that's really nice. Again, it's just that like grassroots, just be you. And are you comfortable is the question around here. Like
Right.
you don't have to wear heels. You don't have to, it's about just being comfortable and being able to go from the beach to so my husband's office, I joke all the time, like his commute is like a couple blocks away. So I'm like, oh, how's that commute today, babe? Whew, did you handle that okay? Did you ride your skateboard today? What what'd you do? The Vespa? Yeah, so being here definitely makes it easier. So that's nice.
Right, right. And then I guess you can have those occasions if you're into it. Like, where at least you go on set, let's say, and then you get the hair and the
Hmm.
makeup. At least it's a little novel, right?
Yeah, and you know what? It's super fun to do every once in a while. Like I do love fashion and putting things together and the look of something. And especially if it feels like you, then
Mm.
there's no better feeling. Um, but yeah, I I have spent money on like nicer things, and I find that I never wear them. Like, where am I
Oh
going to
yeah.
wear that in Hermosa? I look like a crazy person, you
Right.
know? So I do have a nice closet full of some nice things, but they just sit there,
That's so
unfortunately.
funny. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's nice to have them in case something
Yeah,
does come up, and then you don't have
yeah.
to like go run out and be like, "Oh, wait, I have nothing to wear to this, unusual event or
Hmm.
whatever."
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is. It's really nice. I was just thinking about. So wait, do you get recognized often? Like, do people know you from TV, or do you kind of get to blend a little bit?
Yeah, it's interesting. I forget that because I live in such a chill place, I forget that I'm like people know who I am. So it really I'm surprised every time it happens, and it does happen,
Yeah.
and quite a bit, like quite a lot now. But I think people think that I'm like pretending to like act, but honestly, I'm always like, oh, I remember we were, especially once I go outside of the bubble, then that's when it happens. People are really chill around here. Like they're very nice and respectful. And thank God, because my family's here and we
Yeah.
get to just live like a very, live on the DL out here. But we went to the Lakers game not too long ago, and I was sitting there, and there was a guy just down the aisle from me, and he was waving at me, and I was like, "Hey!" And he was like, and I looked behind me to see what famous person was behind me because I thought he wanted me to take a picture of him with but that's just me. I still can't believe that I get to do this for a living, Like, again, I'm come from this like blue collar town and very humble roots. But yeah, stuff like that does happen a
Yeah.
lot, and it surprises me every time. One day I'm going to be cool about it. I'm going to be like, "Hey, yeah, what's your name?" Like that day's not happened yet. So
That's
if you
interesting.
see me, prepare for me to be like, "Oh, oh,
Right.
oh, hi. Oh, you watch the show? You know me? You watch the show?"
Right. But
Yeah.
right, that's so interesting. So I feel like you're the first person who said that that they're surprised. Even, and I'm sure that I've talked to, I mean, a variety of people, but that's so like I feel like it is so like down to earth and cool. Again, I know you said you don't know anything cool, but I feel like that's really cool that you just like
Oh,
completely don't even, it doesn't even register almost.
yeah. I don't know. It's just it's strange. And you know what? I think maybe there might be a little like survival for me in that reaction to it of I don't know how to be that person, like
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Oh yes, of course you know me. I don't know how to be that person. And I I grew up in a family that was very like self-deprecating, and we love humor, we like to laugh, and yet we're very humble, and so it's all I know. And I'm kind of happy that I still am that way. Like I don't want to like lose myself along the way. But it's strange. It's strange. I mean, even the fact that I'm talking to you right now, when I found out that I was going to be doing this, because I don't usually do podcasts because I am a very private, kind of a recluse like person. But I really like your style, and your voice, like I said, is very soothing and comforting. So I don't know. I've instantly felt comfortable to do this with you. But yeah, I don't know. I just feel very grateful that this is my life,
Yeah.
and I'm just happy to be here, folks.
Yeah, and I think it's like what people say sometimes is when somebody is successful, they become more of who they already were,
Oh,
right?
that's
So if yeah, I
interesting.
know the first person who told me that, I was like, it was my friend
Ooh,
Ken, and,
that's
and he said that I was like, oh,
mm,
brilliant, interesting, but I wasn't sure.
wow.
And then since then, I've heard a couple more people say it, and I have observed it myself. And I feel like I'm a really good, just like you had a good feeling about me, like I feel like I'm a really good judge of character. Like I have an intuition almost about
Mm,
like who somebody is. And there are a lot of really great people on my show because I choose who gets to be on my show. And I do think
that's
I have a
cool.
sense of like who's good and maybe who's not that, whatever. I'm not going to call somebody bad, maybe like not
Mm,
that authentic of a person or
just
whatever the
different
nicest.
intentions
Sure.
than you. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe. I don't know.
And I do think as I go on, I feel like, yeah, there are so many people who were clearly really good people to begin with. And like being successful did not ruin them at all. It just like made them even more of the
Hmm.
good. So I
Yeah.
feel like you totally that you would be like proof of that for that theory. You know
Oh,
what I mean?
yay.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Oh,
that's
thank
good.
you.
And thank you for saying that about feeling comfortable. I'm glad. So did you do a little review or something, or did they kind of your reps give you an
Yeah, they
explanation?
did. Yeah, they gave me some examples and, I checked you out and yeah, I like what you're doing.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I always like it's always interesting to me too. Like if somebody samples the show ahead of time, if they haven't seen it or heard it before, it's interesting to me to see like whose episode they saw or whatever. And sometimes people ask me like, oh, who are your favorites or what's like a typical interview? And I'm always like, well, what shows are you into or like what
Yeah.
movies are you into? And then I direct them that way. So, but I just
Yeah,
got a love to it.
it's very just what you do here. It's not about like the surface like questions you've been asked over and over and over again. I like your deep dive approach to it, which is fun.
That's
So
great. And thank you for totally going with me on it. And I totally appreciate that because it's not for everybody, right? Not everybody is ready to go do a deep dive. Some people are
yeah.
like, wait a minute, like, what is this all about? But
Hmm.
I think for the most part, people who are on my show are comfortable with it because they do understand the type of thing it is. So I feel
Hmm.
honored that you said yes. Thank you for doing it.
Oh, well, thank you for asking me. I
So I
appreciate it.
will I will ask you a few they're superficial questions, but they are not the same questions probably. So do you watch anything on TV? Like are you a TV fan?
Well, since COVID, uh, I've been doing the show for so long, and like the hours are crazy. So I hadn't really been able to see much of anything. I was never really knew what people were talking about. I was like, oh, that sounds like a cool show. Someday I'll watch it. No, but my comment would always be, I'll add it to the list. My
Oh,
list that's this long of like shows and movies I would have to catch up on. Um, so when the show ended, and then COVID happened and quarantine, that's where I was able to get into it a little bit more. But right now I loved White Lotus is just
that's
amazing.
did you like season 1 or season 2 better?
So here's the thing. I was a little nervous to watch season two because I loved season one so much. And I
Uh-huh.
feel like sometimes when something's so good, it's hard to keep it so good.
Yes.
Um, so I was thrilled with the second season. I love like Aubrey Plaza was amazing. She's done our
She
show a
was
couple
the
times.
best.
Oh,
Yeah.
she's amazing. But
What she can
everyone,
convey in her face, like in her facial expression without any
yeah,
dialogue. But Mike White is
mm,
good also at writing the show like that, I think, where they're
yeah,
not saying everything. They're saying almost nothing,
yeah,
but you're
yeah.
seeing it.
I thought
Actually, he
that
does
show
both.
was
Yeah.
incredible.
Hmm.
So yeah, we were really into that one. Let's see. Oh, I'm spacing right now. Severance, I thought was really
Well, okay,
cool.
you and I have the same exact taste in shows. Severance is also like that would be my second one that I would mention too. Loved it.
Yeah, I love a good mystery, and where you don't necessarily know the whole story yet, and you're kind of looking at everyone thinking, okay, what do they know and how are they involved? I like to just go on a wild, crazy ride and see how it all comes out in the end. But yeah, what's the other one? I'm totally spacing. Um, hmm, I don't know. I feel like you and I have the same. What shows are you
Right, I
into?
know, and I'm blanking too. I always
I
blank
know.
when
Well,
like
I'm like
right?
literally breaking
I
right
don't
now.
know, but like so I'm thinking it's probably on HBO or HBO Max is something is
Hmm.
whatever you're thinking of, or Apple TV Plus. I feel like those and Hulu now. I feel like those have the best shows now. I just feel like
Oh
those
yeah.
the ones that you're saying that are like a little bit on that other level where they're not just
Oh,
spoon
Barry.
feeding you.
Barry. Barry, I
Barry,
loved. Such a great show.
yes.
That's another really good one. Um, yeah, I don't know. I like the darker. I like dark comedy. I'm
Yes.
really into just really great character driven. There's
Same.
so much content now. I don't know how anyone has the time to watch even a fraction of it, but there's so much out there. And as an actor, that's really cool because there's so much out
Hmm.
there to do. Hopefully one day I'll work on something else other than Criminal Minds.
Right, right. Luxury
Yeah.
problems, of course, but yes, I know
Yeah.
I mean, it is so weird, right? There is that trade-off a little bit. It's like such a
Mm,
stable and a steady and a great thing that you have, but at the same
mm.
time, it would be nice, I'm sure, to like be changing it up a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's interesting because I come from like indie film, like that's where I started. That's where I got my start.
Hmm.
Like Sofia Coppola, The Virgin Suicides, like that was my
Right.
first feature film experience. So talk about coming out the gate swinging. That was such a crazy, incredible experience. To work with that caliber of people was just pinch me moment the whole time.
Right.
Yeah, and that I loved the book too, so that was just cool. And that's another one that's like dark. It has some humor in it, and yeah, that's my speed.
I
That's my
totally
speed
got it.
there.
I'm with that.
Mhm.
So, and that's pretty cool, Sofia Coppola being your first director. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's pretty
yeah.
amazing. It's
Like
funny
Francis
sometimes.
Ford Coppola would be just like hanging out on sets,
Oh, he
like.
would.
Oh yeah, it was. I just was beside myself. Like I was trying really hard to just be cool. Just like don't freak anyone out because you're a total fan of everyone here. So it was
Yeah.
so many memories.
It's funny. I have these pinch me moments sometimes. Like not, I mean, I feel lucky all the time that I get to do what I do because I have these great conversations with these really interesting people. And I love TV and film. I always have. So it's kind of just combines everything. So I always feel really lucky about it. There are some moments where I'm like, I do have to kind of pinch myself, like you're saying. And it's funny that you said that because I had Talia Shire on the show. So she, of course, is Francis Ford Coppola's sister.
Hmm.
And afterwards, we were kind of talking, we were texting each other and whatnot. And I was like, this is so weird that I'm texting Talia Shire. Like, what?
Yeah,
I
yeah,
never would have thought when I was watching Rocky growing up or The Godfather that this would,
yeah.
it is wild, isn't it? Life just
It
can
is
bring you
weird.
places you would never expect.
It's always weird when you like input a famous person's phone number in your phone. I'm like, oh
Yes,
my gosh. I'm
yes,
like, should I change their name like for security purposes? Like,
right.
but I'm like
That's
I'm a nerd. I'm a total like rule follower. Like, I don't want to do anything wrong. I would feel so bad if someone got their number and it somehow was
right.
my fault.
Right, totally. By the way, your co-worker, I guess you could call him, Joe Mantegna, has been on my show a couple times recently too.
So he's, I mean, that guy is the salt of the earth. He really is. He's been such a wonderful example and teacher for me. We really lucked out when he joined our show. He just gives so much of himself to everyone and just really worthy causes and his family and his craft. And I don't know how he does it all.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm like, Joe, how do you do this? But I think I think that's his personality too. Like he really
Hmm.
loves to be on the go. He likes to be working on something.
Hmm.
So I wish I had a little more of that in me,
Right,
that
right.
fire to just always be out hustling. But
But
he's the,
that's a different personality. You know what I mean? Like that
yeah.
drives him. Other things drive you. He might say similar
Hmm.
things about, oh, I wish I had that balance with nature. And it's funny because he did tell me that we did talk about that a little bit about how he does really, because he still likes what he does a lot. So he
Yes.
does want to be involved in all these things. But he was
Hmm.
talking about how they have a beach house now.
Yeah.
And he said how it really is nice to be able to get to the nature
Oh, yeah.
again. Hmm.
Oh, yeah. Both him and Paget got beach houses. And I was like,
Oh,
welcome to the club. They're like, we
yeah.
get it now. I'm like, yeah,
How could you not? It's
welcome.
perfect.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
Well, okay, this was such a great conversation. I'm so glad you did the show. Before we wrap up, I have
Hmm.
one question that I like to ask at the end. And then don't hang up or hang up, I'm calling it hang up.
Yeah.
Don't click off yet.
And leave meeting, I think is what it's
Right.
called.
Exactly. But I'll wrap up also before that. So,
Okay.
let's go back. Let's go to my last question.
All right.
So to wrap up, it's a two-part question actually. What is the image that you feel like a lot of people have of you? Like who do they think you are?
I think people think I'm JJ. I've played her for so long and they've watched her grow up on TV in their living rooms. I look like I was about 12 when I started the show. It's bizarre. And part of me wonders how I got the job. I'm like, I'm not buying her as an FBI agent now. Now that I'm older, I'm like, mm. But thank God someone somewhere thought that I could pull that off. Yeah, so I think they just sort of think I'm JJ. And it's funny too, because my name's AJ and JJ. It's all just so similar. And my kids are on the show too. So I get why they just sort of think I am JJ.
That would be weird too, I would imagine, if you're walking somewhere with both of the boys and then do people recognize like the trio?
They are starting to now, especially with the latest installment of the show. Now that people know how big the boys are now, they've
Yeah.
they've grown up.
How
So
do they feel?
yeah.
Like how do they feel about it?
Um, it's funny. So my youngest, he just really doesn't like he just doesn't care. He's like, okay, cool, whatever. But now he's starting to kind of understand that like people like admire his mom for what she does, which I don't think he put that together before. But I also think it's because he himself now is starting to watch things that he likes, and there's people that he admires on TV. So I think he's
Oh,
connecting those dots of like, oh my gosh, my mom is that to someone, so that's kind of weird and cute to see, I guess. And then my oldest, yeah, he gets it a little more. I think he wants to act a little bit more. And I'm unfortunately that mom. It's like, I've never met a normal child actor before. So you can come work with me because, you're on set with me. But yeah, now that he's getting a little older, I have to sort of start supporting that desire that he has to do it a little bit more. Perhaps not just working with his mom. So yeah, yeah, but it's strange. It's
yeah.
strange. He kind of understands a little bit more about like the social media aspect of it all, and that there's people are fans. So
Right. You're going to have a lot of worries that come into your mind about
yeah.
that, I'm sure, but you're
Oh
just going to
yes.
acknowledge them and you're going
Hmm.
to say, this is okay. And then
Hmm.
it's going to just
Yeah.
go over
Well, all
there.
I all I can do about that is just teach my kids you know, to handle it properly
And
and to
clearly, right. Clearly
yeah.
you guys you're instilling in them. Like you're very consciously and actively passing along your priorities and values. So
We're trying.
it's just like your parents did with you. You know, like they're
Mhm.
different, but it's still at the same time. When they're so strong, when you're growing up, I think
Mhm.
they really do. It's like impossible for them not to, the values not to stay with you. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, and then as they age and they get older, they can choose to
Sure.
continue that or expand upon that.
Right. Like we talk about, pick and choose the things that you
Hmm.
as they get older.
Yeah.
So the second part of that question is, who are you really?
Oh, oh. Um, who am I
You're not JJ.
really?
So who
I'm
are
not,
you?
yeah, I'm not JJ, although I will say this, it's been a really unique parallel journey with JJ. Um, our lives have really sort of mirrored each other in a lot of ways. So I know that I have had to draw on JJ's strength and courage several times in my life when I felt like I wasn't strong enough to maybe do that, which is silly because it all is me at the end of the day. But yeah, I'm really laid back and I'm just chill and uh, I don't know. I live at the beach. I spend my time at the beach, and if I'm not at the beach, I'm out, in Zion area, and I don't know. I love nature, and I love my family and my friends, and I'm just like I said. I think the best way to describe me is I'm just happy to be here.
I
Whatever
love it.
here is, whatever situation, I'm just like, all right, cool, here we are.
There's nothing wrong with that. I think that's a good philosophy. Great, right? Love AJ, and I feel like we may just become friends, which is always a nice thing. So please make sure you drop a like if you like this interview and comment for sure. I love comments. I read them. I always want to know what you're thinking about the show. And be sure to subscribe. And if you want to catch my interview with AJ's coworker, Joe Mantegna, that's another good one. You can just tap up here on this card or click on the link in the description below, and you'll enjoy that one too. I have a feeling. Thanks for watching. I'm Kara, and I'll see you next time.
Hi, I'm AJ Cook. I just finished talking to Kara, my new BFF. She just has a way. She has a way with people. We had a great conversation, and you should tune in. Check it out.
I love that. Thank you.